First of all, how in the world was it that phone manufacturers had no idea about this pre-installed software on their phones?
Hey, Emma, great to see you again. You raise a great question because, in fact, not only does it collect the things you were talking about, the people behind it had built something that could also allow a hacker, if they wanted to use it maliciously, to install other applications that you didn't even authorize and have higher privileges on your phone than even you do. So the thing that we have to say is, well, how did it get through the manufacturing side? And unfortunately, and this is a larger problem throughout much of the industry, especially when you're dealing with cheaper phones, is that the security testing of those phones before they are released in market is not just part of standard protocol to see what kind of data may be getting sent out and things like that.
I mean, if there are people at home who've used this kind of phone before, or maybe they're using it now, I mean, how can they find out whether or not their phone has this kind of software?
Well, most people won't be able to find out because they're not technically proficient enough to hook that phone up to listening devices and find out what data is getting sent out and monitor it on their network and computer systems like CryptoWire did, who gets the credit for identifying this. So the only way to do it is actually to listen to things like what we're talking about on CNN. When you see something like this, become aware, you have to take it seriously because you have to check, do I have one of these phones? And in fact, the US government here in the United States had warned that certain companies had issues where this type of stuff could or was happening. So the kinds of companies who are on that list are the kinds of companies that you actually do. Now we have proof of it. Be serious enough to avoid them when you're buying a phone.
I said this in the intro describing what this software does. You're the expert here, and tell us again what kind of information this software was collecting and where, to whom it was being sent, and you know, why this kind of software even exists.
Well, speaking to the people who are watching, it's who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, what messages, text messages, not just which ones you're sending, but the content of them. So even pictures or videos that might be included, the geolocation, what places you're going to, and also it could be installing things on your phone that you didn't even authorize, like applications you never downloaded. So it's basically owning you. And that's why this is such a concern of not only the government side, but also the private side and everyone who's in the Android space of using these types of phones.
So the tech company that created the software, what do we know about it? And are they saying anything about why they created the software and for whom, or at the behest of anyone or government?
Well, that's the most interesting part that's raising questions. The company is saying they were asked to do this by a private sector corporation that wanted to understand their usage of their customers better. In other words, for legitimate purposes in their mind, based in China. But the fact that this is public means that the Chinese government, which everyone is constantly concerned about in the privacy sector, the Chinese government could simply go to that company and say, give me everything you have. So I would at this point not be confident in saying it's just for a private sector company and it's good old capitalism, as a security friend of mine just recently said to me, but it's in fact something that could easily have been authorized by the Chinese government. And the fact that it was done for a corporation is just a front to avoid the disclosure of it, even though today we have disclosure of it.